right, delegates, it's an absolute delight to introduce our first speaker today, and I know you're as excited as I am. David Eby has been flat out his entire career to make life better for people in British Columbia, including some of the most vulnerable. At the Pivot Legal Society, he advocated for human rights and dignity of residents in the downtown east side who were experiencing homelessness. As executive director of the BC Civil Liberties Association, he stood up for the rights and freedoms of that so many of us take for granted. Along the way, he taught law at UBC, led the Canadians' HIV/AIDS legal network, and conducted research for the CCPA. 13 years ago, he thrilled us all by coming within just a few hundred votes of beating Christy Clark in Gordon Campbell's old riding. And then he gave us the brightest spots in 2013 election when he made that happen. In cabinet, among a long list of achievements, he took on opioid manufacturers, got big money, took on opioid manufacturers, got big money out of the BC elections, oversaw the building of thousands of homes and bringing nearly 5,000 people off the streets and into housing, pulled ICBC back from financial brink and bringing down rates and showing the whole country that public insurance works. Nor the Move Up folks are sitting. Thank you. And as Premier, David has been working tirelessly to make life more affordable for working people, taken on Airbnb to turn short-term rentals into homes, removed obstacles to building housing, and taking action to improve access to healthcare. Made prescriptions like contraception free of charge here in British Columbia. I am both delighted and relieved to be introducing our next speaker, my friend as re-elected Premier of British Columbia and a good friend to the Labour movement, Premier David Eby.
Better than a coffee. That was great. Nice to see everybody. It's a pleasure to join you here on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, and thank you for inviting me. It's Suzanne said it was a relief. I'll say it is a pleasure to be here as your Premier, and thank you for making that possible. I can't think of a better place to kick things off for the third consecutive NDP government for British Columbia for the first time in history. And I want to let you know that I know that it was your members that were out there hustling on the doorstep every single day through the campaign period and even before that, including many of your members who ran with the NDP. That's why I'm standing here, and that's why I have those amazing MLAs at the back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I know all those hardworking MLAs at the back, the new MLAs got introduced already, but I want you to have a good look at them. I ask our MLAs to please stand up one more time. The reason why they're here, the reason why they crossed the line ahead of the Conservatives and the Conservatives' plan to cut and reduce services and make life harder for people, again, it's because of your members, and they know it, and I know it. It was all of us working together to deliver a progressive government for British Columbia. Thank you again.
Hear, hear.
Thank you for coming, colleagues. Now, it's not just about winning elections. In fact, that's not the primary purpose that any of us are either here in this room or that we do the work we do. The reason we do this is to make life better for people in our province, for you, for your membership, for me, for the people of the province, and for all of us, the whole province of British Columbia working together. And I think about the things that we've done, the accomplishments we've made over the time that the BC NDP has been in government, that we've worked together. You remember, I know, because we mentioned it, but it's important to remember where we came from. We had the lowest minimum wage in Canada, in British Columbia. In fact, you'll remember that we had a government that thought the minimum wage wasn't low enough. They created a sub-minimum wage, the training wage. Some of you have been around for a while, you'll remember that. Well, now we have the highest minimum wage in Canada. You know, it used to be the case that if you got sick in British Columbia, you might not be able to make your rent. And now we have 5 days of paid sick leave in British Columbia. We have single-step certification for workers because we know that in times when there's challenges around expenses, that the fastest ticket to the middle class is being able to join a union.
Hear, hear.
Now, one of the things that I know all of us were really proud of was reversing the largest firing of health workers in the history of our province, bringing them back into the public sector, making sure they have those long-term relationships with people in long-term care, delivering the kind of care that people in this province deserve. We're building schools, we're building hospitals, we're building transit and roads with union labor. You'll remember, of course, the SkyTrain from the airport to downtown, where temporary workers were brought in, paid a fraction of the wage that workers doing the same work right beside them were doing. The government got sued, had to pay out millions of dollars to these workers because of the appalling working conditions they subjected these workers to. We don't do that anymore. We build up our province, and we build up our people side by side with apprentices, learning skills that are going to benefit them, their communities, and the whole province for the rest of their lives. Now, I want to acknowledge that our friends, postal workers, are out on strike right now. And they're out asking for the same things that every worker deserves in British Columbia: decent wages, a dignified retirement, a safe workplace, and reasonable working conditions. And I want them to know that they have our support. Now, I can feel it a little bit out there. You know, we lost someone really special in our province recently. Premier John Horgan passed away after an incredible set of achievements and work in partnership with the labor movement. He worked with you for years. He is a friend, a longtime friend of the labor movement, and the accomplishments that he delivered were focused, just like you are, on ensuring that working families have a chance to get ahead. We're going to miss him very deeply, and the work that he did, we're going to continue together in his memory, because that's what he would expect us to do. His message to us when he'd come by our offices was always work harder, and that's absolutely what we're going to do to deliver for British Columbians. So I want to thank you for your support for John and his family at this time. And if you'll join me in just a brief recognition of his work with a round of applause for Premier Horgan and his family. Thank you so much for that. You know, the election was significant for a couple of reasons, and one of them was, for the first time in the history of the province of British Columbia, there are more women than men representing their communities as MLAs. This has never happened before. And I think that we have elected the most qualified, and I know it is the most diverse caucus of NDP MLAs ever elected in the history of the province of British Columbia. Their perspectives, their experiences, some of them brand new, some of them very experienced, are going to ensure that we're directing the province in the way that is the most effective to deliver for British Columbians on the priorities they sent us here for. And I also want you to know that there are a number of people in our caucus that came from Labour. You will know some of our new MLAs. Darlene Rochford, for example, new Parliamentary Secretary of Labour. Jesse Sunner, who we elected out in Surrey. And Rohini Arora, who's also joined our caucus. You'll also know many of our returning MLAs. Janet Rutledge, our new whip, coming from Labour Movement. Raj Chauhan, our speaker, coming from the Labour Movement. And of course, our new Labour Minister, Jennifer Whiteside, who's going to work so hard to deliver for you every single day. And as I recognize Jennifer, I do want to take a second to thank Harry Baines, who worked for many years as Minister of Labour. He's sailing off into a well-deserved retirement. I'm interested to see what he's going to do next, but he did an excellent piece of work, and I know that Jennifer is going to do awesome work for us as well. Now, it's important that our cabinet is ready to work, that we're ready to go, that all our MLAs are ready to go, because these are profoundly challenging times. These are hard times for workers and their families, with rising costs, high interest rates, impacting them in the same way they're impacting people across North America. But also, we just received the news within the last 24 hours that the new President of the United States intends to increase tariffs on Canada to 25%. Now, obviously, this will be devastating to workers on both sides of the border, both in the United States and in Canada. The impact on families will be profoundly significant. It's important to recognize a couple of things. One is that Canada is a major customer of United States businesses, just like we sell a lot of things to United States businesses. We buy more American stuff than France and China and Japan and the United Kingdom combined. So we are negotiating, I believe, from a position of strength. But also, Americans are dependent on what we produce here in Canada. We are one of the top exporters to the United States, and certainly they're our number one customer as well. We have more in common with Americans than what separates us. And focusing on that and how we can work together to strengthen and support working families across North America is critically important. We're going to stand together, and we're going to ensure that we negotiate from a position of strength, that we negotiate hard, and we ensure that any decisions that are made are in the best interests of British Columbians and Canadians. There are improvements we can make on our border. We've called repeatedly for example, port police to ensure what comes into British Columbia is not contraband, is not illicit drugs or precursor chemicals. These are things that we can do to make life better here in British Columbia, as well as respond to concerns that have been raised south of the border. But I'll tell you this, we're going to stand together. We're going to stand together as a province. We're going to stand together with employers. We're going to stand together with labor. And we're going to stand together right across this country and ensure that families are protected here in British Columbia. We'll be having a meeting with the Prime Minister and Premiers this week to discuss our strategic approach as a united Team Canada as we respond to this threat and ensure that families are protected. Because we need to be a government that supports all British Columbians in every corner of this province. We're not just a government for the Lower Mainland. We're not just a government for South Vancouver Island. We are a government for every corner of this province, for Prince George and Kamloops, for the interior, for the north, for the northeast, the northwest, the island, and we're going to make sure that that's the case. Because we all want the same basic things in life in British Columbia. A decent place to live that we can afford, high-quality health care, safe communities, safe places to work. And we're going to be focused on those key priorities that British Columbians have. We're going to deliver on the basics that British Columbians expect. For working families, we're going to bring down their costs. A $1,000 tax cut for middle-income families across the province, not just for the holidays, but going forward to make sure that families are supported. For young people, delivering homes that you can afford. For families, for people across the province, for people who are struggling in our streets, ensuring community safety, ensuring healthcare responses, responding to the crisis of mental health and addiction in our communities with compassion, and ensuring that all people are supported. And for our healthcare system, ensuring that people have access to the emergency care they need, as well as the family doctors that they need to ensure that they stay healthy and to respond in crisis. And how are we going to do this work? We'll say, oh, that all sounds very good, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Remember when they said that you couldn't increase the minimum wage because it would destroy our provincial economy? Well, I want you to know, of all of the provinces in Canada, I want you to know which province had the highest GDP growth of any province in this country last year. And that was the province, that's right, spoiler alert, that was the province of British Columbia. And you're going to have your Conservative friends tell you, oh, sure. Well, they did that all with public money, you know. It wasn't about growing the economy. It was about public spending. Well, the province of Ontario got $20 billion in public spending for battery plants. The province of Quebec got $13 billion in equalization. The province of Alberta got a $20 billion pipeline. And we beat every single one of those provinces. And I'll tell you why. Because, as John Horgan told us, the strength of this province is our people. When we're investing in our people, when we're giving them the training that they need, when we're giving them the skills they need to ladder in their careers, to move into a better paying job, when we're supporting British Columbians with a decent minimum wage and decent benefits regardless of whether or not they're in a union, we're investing in our people, we're strengthening our province, and we're growing our economy, and we have to do more. I know these are huge challenges that we face. Your members face them. I'm sure you heard about them during the election when you asked them to vote again NDP, and they said, we need to do better on healthcare. We need to make sure we're growing our economy. We need to make sure that we're doing all of this important work. And I assure you, our team will be there for you. We will have your back so that at the next election, when you go to those members, you'll be able to say to them, the government heard what you said. We brought the message to them, and they acted, and they dealt with it, and we're in a better place. They need your support again, and we're going to do it together. I need your help, and I want to work with you. Our whole team does, and we're going to work together as a province to make sure this stays the best place on earth to live, and we can only do it together. Thank you so much for your support. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Premier. It's been a pleasure working with you for the past 2 years as Premier, and we look forward to doing more for working people in BC for the next 4. But I should forewarn you, we'll be pushing hard and holding your feet to the fire.